Good morning, everybody. So recently, I had a conversation with somebody who was talking about things that happen to everybody that are often misdiagnosed as racism or sexism or bigotry of some sort. It turns out that there's a bunch of folks that when normal things happen to them, they call it bigotry. Now, this is everywhere. You know, there's a bunch of people who, I've literally had a black man cut in line, and then when I was like, hey dude, the line's back there, he immediately accused me of racism. You know, this is a thing that's happened, and if you've been around long enough, chances are it's happened to you. And at some point in your life, you're going to encounter a person who's just a grifter. And the grifters want to use real world problems as an excuse to do something bad and get away with it. Now, that does not eliminate the fact that things like this actually are happening. Yes, there is racism all over the place. I've seen it. It's also a thing that you have to be able to separate the two things. Did I take a second glance at that man pulling up to my daughter's playground because he was black or because he was unfamiliar? And so I took a second glance. This is a thing that you have to be honest about. Not everything is specific to whatever group you're a part of. And it's the unfortunate thing about the woke movement is its stated intent is to make it so that absolutely every bit of human behavior that a person disagrees with can simply be dismissed as they're a bigot, which eliminates the need for self-reflection, because bigotry is bigotry is an overriding of logic. It's where your emotional bias gets in the way and you assume things about a person based on whatever group you perceive them to be part of. It's one of the reasons why a lot of the people who are the loudest screamers of whatever group you happen to be of tend to be super bigoted. The amount of, you're a straight white man, so you shouldn't have an opinion that I've encountered is really fascinating. And when I was doing various law enforcement things, it was really interesting to me how the only people that seemed to be making any attempt whatsoever to not be horribly racist were the white people. There was a situation where some black women had been caught shoplifting, and the owner of the shop was from India. And he kept using the N-word over and over and over again to describe them. And then, when we told him to stop doing that, he got way, way into some forms of bigotry that we were like, whoa, dude. And I took him aside, and I was like, hey, these women were shoplifting for me, right? He goes, yeah. And I said, okay, if you don't stop talking this way about them, a court of law is going to go, well, he's such a racist that there's no possible way that he could give an honest, unbiased opinion, therefore we're going to let them off. And he calmed down a little bit. I mean, he was still grumble, terrible, horrible, grumble. And after that happened, I was about 19 when, I was in that situation. It's been a while. But when that happened, I then walked around and I started listening to other people, and I was like, the Mexicans that live around me are really mean to the Puerto Rican kid over there. And the black kids over there that I hang out with sometimes are horrible to, everybody else. And it occurred to me that, yeah, it's everywhere. And the idea that you're going to blame one group of people for all the problems in the world is, in many ways, a form of white supremacy. Because you're basically pointing at white people and saying, hey, all the problems in the world are your fault, and all these poor, pitiful other folks can't possibly make it if you're being so mean and awful. And it's like, that's also suggesting that we're the master race, which we're not. It's suggesting that we're superior to everyone, which we're not. It's suggesting that we're the only people in the world whose opinions matter, which is also untrue. So, you can acknowledge that these things are going on and that they're bad, but you have to also be able to take some responsibility for your own stuff. I acknowledge I've got my own stuff, and I acknowledge I'm not a perfect human being. But to go around and blame me for everything that's going on is assigning me way more power than I actually have. And also, just because a politician might look like me doesn't mean I have more power. I'm still having to deal with the same corruption that politician is shoving down our throats. And you can make an argument of, well, as a white man, you're probably going to have less corruption shoved at you. And you know what? That may be true. But I'm still outraged by the fact that that's corruption. I'm still outraged by the fact that this individual is not giving an equal shake to everybody. Because I try to be as colorblind as possible. I do not see it as those are black people suffering. I see it as those are my fellow humans suffering. My fellow countrymen are suffering. And let's face it, if a corrupt power structure is willing to screw that group of people over, they're completely willing to screw me and mine over. Just because there may be an advantage to being a certain skin color doesn't make you safe. It just means maybe you're a little safer right now. Because I guarantee you, the group that's willing to take away your rights is absolutely willing to take away my rights. They just haven't found the right excuse yet. So, try not to be so accusatory, and keep in mind that I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you. When George Floyd was murdered, I was screaming at the TV because I was in law enforcement. I received that training. I know exactly when that guy was doing the wrong thing and how he was doing the wrong thing. And, you know, had I physically been there, I probably would have been arrested because I'd have gotten in that dude's face. Because I've received that training and I know he was doing it incorrectly. And he may have bounced my face off the curb a few times. But you know what? Sometimes that needs to happen. We need to show solidarity with each other. Just because you don't look like me doesn't mean you're not very much like me. Because we're all humans. And we all come from the same well of souls. And this is the one Earth that we currently have. We don't have the ability to go to the other worlds yet. So we got to take care of each other. It's the only way we're going to make it. And my analysis may not be the perfect one, but you know what? It's the one I'm going with. I'm going to try to help as many people as possible while I have the ability to do so. So, off we go.